Imagine you're camping in the woods on a cool night in fall. The fire's crackling while friends or family surround you. Suddenly in the distance you hear the sound of a branch snapping. The mood, the very atmosphere has shifted from one of relative safety to uncertainty, fear of the unknown. That very change in the dynamic is what the basis of stories are all about. Leaning into that fear, conflict, but by doing so we find a way to cope with this fear. We have to grow and change with it. And much like ourselves, stories also grow and change over time. This is one of those stories. When I was younger, I had heard this supposedly haunted stretch of road,
Reader Road,
and that was it. There wasn't anything else to it. I hadn't heard the various rumors that made up why it was haunted, just that it was haunted. Flash forward to about 2007 or 8, and suddenly I'm back there with a few people, and we cross over to what we thought was the real Reader Road. It ended up being some back way into Oak Ridge Prairie, and after that we thought, okay, mystery solved. And I hadn't thought about it for at least 15 years. Then, out of nowhere, I decide, hey, it's Halloween, let's see what Reader Road's up to. Partly out of curiosity, partly out of nostalgia for an old story. So I looked up the information and found several sites that all said the same thing. Each one mentioned the various rumors of the hauntings and the ghastly things that happen on Reader Road. I even went to YouTube to see if there was a video about it. The one thing I noticed between all 3 different places and the video itself was that, wait a minute, this isn't Reader Road. To be ghostly transparent, I'm not trying to discredit anyone or their work or anything like that. It was just a case of, did the story change over time? Was there something I missed? Here are the examples from the sites that show what the story is supposedly.
People say if you drive down the road at night, you can see Elizabeth waiting. It was a popular suicide location in the 80s and 90s. Some folk walk there and see shadows of apparitions.
And the key thing that made me question it was, wait a minute, what does this have to do with Ross Cemetery? That's not the story I heard. So I decided to ask the person who had been there long before I was. My mom.
Probably when we moved here when I was like 14, 15 years old. The kids around here. I graduated in 77, so early 70s. Oh, we used to walk down it all the time at night. It was supposed to be haunted, and we used to take walks down there at night. Probably not really, but to us, you know, because of the stories and everything, every little thing seemed scary. The story about the girl in the white dress and that she'd walked the road and she was trying to get home and something to do with Ross Cemetery. But I never heard that she led you to the cemetery or that you went. The roads don't connect. Reader Road does not connect to go to Ross Cemetery. It ended at Hendricks. Straight down Colfax, past the train tracks. The first street that you come to, you turn to your left.
And you'd walk all the way down that, or what?
All the way to the end.
And do you remember it branching off into a different trail, or was it just a straight road?
It was just a straight road.
So there was no changing of where you went?
No.
Anything else that you remember in particular about it?
No. Just that it didn't wind and it didn't branch off, and we went straight to the end, and most of the time we turn around and walk it back. The first time I went back there in many, many years was maybe 10 years ago, and I was surprised that it was blocked off with a gate where you couldn't go to the end, and it was all grown up. And I was also surprised that there were houses there now. There were never houses down there. So it has changed a lot from when we used to walk it. Any of the new trails that are back there that wind around, and maybe you could come out on Main Street and take that down around to Ross Cemetery, but before they never connected. That's all I'm saying.
So again, not trying to disprove anything. Much like any ghost story or urban legend, some things just grow and change over time. But there's a few things that point out that these stories don't make sense. For example, with the help of some of these useful maps I looked up, which I've drawn on with MS Paint, where Reader Road actually goes through, and the trail leading to Ross Cemetery is actually the Oak Savannah Trail, and how the old abandoned railroad has been converted to the Chesapeake and Ohio Trail. So what's the conclusion to this story? Well, there's 3 conflicting accounts, including my own, that lead to the conclusion is inconclusive. I had a separate experience. My mother had a separate experience. And these investigators also had a different experience. But they're just going on the information that they had as well. The same as me, same as my mom. And as frustrating and difficult as it can be, sometimes a conclusion is just that, a conclusion. It doesn't have a resolution, it's just, that's all there is to it. Really, it goes to show how even in a short amount of time, time itself can bury a mystery. Things we leave behind will be gone. And that's why history is important. And that's why digging up the past is the best way to move forward. And at the very least, I hope this video makes you think about the stories that you know in your own life, your own local legends, and what you can learn from them and how you can move forward. Oh, and happy Halloween.